Hi, I'm Avery Trufelman, and maybe you can relate to this. There's so many great podcasts out there, but it's impossible to listen to them all. That's why I'm so happy to be the host of Hark Daily, a new way to hear the best moments from the best podcast conversations. Each weekday morning, you'll hear 5 captivating clips from amazing podcasts on the day's news, culture, and so much more, all in 20 minutes. And it's totally free. Check it out at harkdaily.com.
We definitely wanted people to experience the best way to eat the food, no? That's how it's in Mexico. It's not like you stand around. And we wanted people to understand that. Like, no, it's not like you're going to get home, sit down, turn on the TV, and then eat your taco. No, it's just like quick. It is how it's supposed to be now.
This is Taste. I'm your host, Eliza Barbanel. Giovanni Cervantes and Tanya Apolinar are partners in life and 2 amazing New York City taquerias. Taqueria Ramirez in Greenpoint and Carnitas Ramirez in the East Village. Formerly professional photographers, the duo is now dedicated to making some of the most delicious tacos in New York City's ever-expanding scene. And it's so fun to have them on the show today to talk about how it all happens.
And at the top of the show, it's the return of 3 things, where Eliza and I talk about what is exciting us in the world of restaurants, cookbooks, and the food world as a whole. I hope you enjoy this episode.
Hi, Matt.
Eliza, how are you?
I'm good. Do you want to talk 3 things?
I do. I can start. Is that cool?
Yeah, go for it.
Well, the first thing I want to talk about is a book that I was sent. It's terrific. It's called The Observer's Guide to Japanese Vending Machines by Tanner Bowden. And it's a photo book, but a little bit more about, as the title suggests, vending machines in Japan. And it's a beautiful book that shows in the cities of Kyoto, Tokyo, and Wakayama the way the vending machine is part of Japanese food culture and how vending machines pop up in really unique spots on the side of the road, in fields, et cetera, et cetera. And I love this book because first off, Tanner's got just such a great eye for doing this like naturalistic urbanscape photography, and I like the printing quality of this book. I think he printed it himself, or is it indie press that did it? But I also like that in the front of the book, he gives a little taxonomy about what you're finding in vending machines in Japan. He gives a little history of the vending machine. So there's actually like a lot of writing in it as well. But as a coffee table book, I just love the way it shows like Pocari Sweat and all those Kirin energy drinks, and really how the vending machine is so built into Japanese food culture. If you've traveled there, you know that convenience stores are, of course, quite popular, but also where there aren't convenience stores are vending machines that kind of fill in that real appetite for convenience and quick food. And it reminds me of Craig Modd's new memoir, Things Become Other Things. He has a section where he's in very rural Japan. He's hungover, and he looks out the window and he's like thirsty, and he writes some beautiful prose, and he spots in the distance a glowing Pocari Sweat machine, and he runs across, I think it was snow and bare feet, and gets his Pocari, and it saves the day. So
I got to put your shoes on.
I know he writes in a fun way, but I think Tanner's book is really fun, and I'm going to link to the show notes. It's great.
Yeah, I love that concept. It sounds really fun.
Yeah. What's your first thing?
My first thing is I went to a coffee shop called Not As Bitter in the East Village. Have you heard about this place?
I haven't. I love the name though. It's so great.
They specialize in fresh fruit lattes, so espresso drinks that are having fresh fruit in them, which I think is where the Not As Bitter name comes from. It's this idea that adding this fruit is kind of rounding out the fruitiness of the coffee, balancing out some of the bitterness. It's very fun. I feel like they do a lot of coffee drinks that I've never seen before. They have like a durian drink, papaya.
Beautiful.
Double pistachio is the one that I had because it was one of the colder days, and that's felt kind of more comforting to me. But I went with Jess Eng, who's one of our favorite writers here at Taste, and she got the durian drink. So I did get to try like the full fresh fruit experience. And I think it's like more of a unusual kind of coffee to have here in New York, which is cool. I will say like a lot of the drinks they don't have a non-dairy option for, which like I don't really want to drink a full cup of milk in the morning. So that was my only kind of critique in that regard. But I think if you are looking to try a fresh fruit latte, this is the place to go.
It feels almost radical to the idea that you're going to do lattes with fresh fruit, because you're kind of not undermining, but you're contrasting this like great detail for the coffee with like the roasting and the production of the coffee with this fruit. But on the flip side, it's so refreshing and cool to see coffee being pushed to a new level with like durian and having fresh fruit, not just like fruit syrups and fruit flavors integrated into coffee. And like everyone loves a latte. I mean, it's like the most popular drink. So it's so cool.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because when I was in Taiwan and Thailand earlier this year, I had a lot of espresso, like seltzer fruit drinks, which I think is so delicious. And I was really into, it'd be like calamansi or grapefruit or that kind of like citrus bubbles iced espresso combination I was really into. So I think what Not As Bitter is doing, they have hot and iced drinks, but getting into like not just coffee and fruit, but instead of seltzer having like milk or something creamy, it feels kind of like a interesting expansion in that way.
Very cool. It's on my list. I'm absolutely going. Can't wait to do it.
What's your second thing?
My next thing is a book, and it's terrific. It's called How to Cook the Finest Things in the Sea by Ari Kolander and Noah Gallatin. You know, this is Ari's a chef in Los Angeles. And first off, I just think this book is taking a real chef's approach to cooking with seafood, butchering seafood. He has a great section, a full chapter about breaded, which is really interesting. It's not just fried, but it's like using breadcrumbs and other, crumbly items to cook with. He has a whole section about cooking fish in paper, and I love that too. I think it's a technically sound book from my point of view, and really quite an achievement. I want to just talk about Ari a little bit. You know, Ari is the chef at Found Oyster in Los Angeles, which is one of our most popular taste check items in our episodes. He grew up in Charleston and worked at The Ordinary and with Mike Lotta and helped open it. So he's got quite an impressive resume. But I like this debut cookbook. It's really, really well done. And he's going to be on the show hopefully in the next couple months, and we'll get to talk all about it. But I just wanted to call this book out.
Yeah, it sounds like a great book.
Yeah. What's your next thing?
My next thing is that I finally went to eat at Wen Wen,
Nice.
which is the second restaurant from Chef Eric C., who does 886 here in New York. So it's a Taiwanese-American kind of spot up on the north end of Greenpoint, and it's one of my girlfriend Shirley's favorite spots. So I always hear her talk about it, but like somehow our schedules have never aligned to go together. But we finally went, and I think it's just like so delicious. There were a couple of things that I especially liked. This numbing salted salad that we had that was really good with that like Szechuan peppercorn flavor. Sacha hot honey popcorn chicken, which they dust with what they call Taiwan dust, which is salt, sugar, white pepper, and MSG.
Love that.
Everything is probably better with that.
Yeah.
Shirley's favorite thing is this shrimp floss lettuce cup, which has shrimp floss and then triple fried youtiao. So it's very like crunchy when you bite into this lettuce wrap. And then they also do a really good beef fat chili oil noodle, which has very thick noodles. I think the menu says thick with two C's, which I would agree with. And then this kind of miso baijiu short rib. Very tasty. More of like a dry noodle, like not quite as saucy. Yeah, I just really had been wanting to go for a while, and I felt like the experience was everything I thought it would be. They have this very famous like BDSM fried chicken, which is a whole fried chicken, feet on and everything. They do very like maybe like 5 a day, 10 a day. So we didn't get that. It wasn't on the menu by the time we were there. Also, I think it's like kind of a full commitment. I probably would not have been able to try so many
BDSM,
other things.
funny.
But yeah, I think it stands for like battered, dredged, fried, marinated chicken or something. There's a play on that word happening there. But yeah, I really liked Wen Wen.
What neighborhood is it in?
It's in Greenpoint.
Oh, it's in Greenpoint. Wow, I haven't made it there, but Eric is somebody who I've gotten to know casually, you know, at events and stuff. But he's somebody we should have on. Just talk to him. Yeah,
I would love to have him on. He's been doing a lot of cool videos with Lucas in Taiwan, actually doing like some of the Bon Appetit videos. So
absolutely,
I don't know who's back in town, but we'll try to make it happen.
And still, I would say the absolute top of the mountain for Vice Munchies episodes is Eric and Lucas on the
Chef's
road.
Night Out.
Chef's Night Out. Yeah, that still is like legend to me. Really, really great episode. Yeah.
What's your next thing?
Well, my last thing is I want to call out a brand new Substack from our friend Luke Pyenson with his partner Lauren Martin. It's really cool. It's called Non-Gluten. It's a great name, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking about the story that they wrote for Taste about not eating gluten anymore. Is that the connection?
So non-gluten is exactly what it says. It's a Substack about gluten-free cooking and products. And really, Luke wrote this great piece about Lauren's early diagnosis for celiac and what it meant for them. These are two passionate restaurant goers and home cooks, and how they had to really switch their diet and really the way they thought about food. And Luke and Lauren together have thought through a way to express their discovery of everything in the non-gluten world for the Substack audience. I really like it. Luke's a terrific journalist, and he's doing a blend of product recommendation, restaurant visits and reviews, and Q&As and interviews with folks in the non-gluten space. There's a real need for this. I think there's a lot of non-gluten content that's terrific, but it's mostly recipe-driven, and this is kind of connecting some dots that I think a lot of folks who have friends who are non-gluten or partners who have celiac, because we know that it's not just about the folks who have celiac, but like those around them that are affected. And I think supportive partners want to eat and cook without gluten, and Luke is in that world himself, so he's writing very honestly about that. So it just launched a couple weeks ago, and I love it. I'm gonna link to it.
Cool. I'm excited to check it out.
Liza, what's your last thing?
My last thing, I will stay in Greenpoint. I finally went to have a drink at Bar Americano up on Franklin Street as well. I actually went like right before. I went to Wen, and it's a very like classic aperitif bar. They have a really nice bar to sit at, and I really enjoyed the drink that I got there. I got their classic like Americano Bianco, which is like Cochi Americano, like a bergamot oil, saffron essence, grapefruit, etc.
Wow.
Very like light springtime spritz. Definitely like my platonic ideal of what I want to be drinking this time of year. And it was just a really nice place to like sit and do the crossword, which is my perfect like sitting at a bar while the weather is out activity.
Yeah.
I think that like Greenpoint obviously has no shortage of bars or places to go to, especially on that stretch of Franklin. But I think as someone who's walked by this place a lot and always seen it busy with people hanging out, like getting to actually go there and try it was really fun. And it looks like they have a lot of like nice snacks if people want to make it into more of a deal.
I love an aperitif bar and concept, and I like your Greenpoint Rex. You've been spending some time there.
Yeah, I live off the G train, so it's a neighborhood that I go to pretty often. Also, now that it's nice out, it's kind of like the best bike ride, I think, is you can take the bike path all the way up along Kent, etc.
Yep.
So I feel like now that it's back in our springtime, summertime New York, you'll probably hear me talk about Greenpoint some more.
Love it. Well, thanks for sharing the three things.
You too.
As the summer travel season approaches, I'm excited to let you know about two upcoming Taste Travels, our immersive travel series hosted by cookbook authors and me, Matt Rodbard. On June 15th, I will be joining the Mediterranean dish author Suzy Karache in Barcelona for an incredible week of culinary tours, cooking classes, and plenty of wine and jamon. And on September 15th, I will be joining author and baker Mauricio Leo of The Perfect Loaf for a tour of northern Italy. We will visit artisanal Parmigiano Reggiano and balsamic vinegar producers, take a masterclass in the art of panettone, and of course, eat plenty of stuffed pasta and mortadella in and around Emilia-Romagna. Both trips are nearly sold out and closing soon. If interested, write into hello@tastecooking.com and we will get you the information. That's hello@tastecooking.com. I hope to see you on one of our taste travels this summer.
Giovanni Cervantes and Tanya Apolinar, this is Taste. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah.
I'm really happy to have you guys here. I think that Taqueria Ramirez and Carnitas Ramirez is maybe the restaurant in New York that I've talked about most on the podcast. I just love your tacos so much. So I'm really like a little starstruck right now.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Something I always like to ask people when they come on the show, we're going to talk a lot about your restaurants and your point of view in food. And I'm wondering if you could each tell me a food memory that you have from growing up that you think was impactful to you or kind of informs how you view food today.
For me, I guess my mom cooked a lot. She actually was not great at cooking, but she learned because my dad always was kind of like, oh, you have to cook for the family. So she really tried. Definitely there was days that, she didn't want to cook, or it was just like, oh, let's go out. And yeah, that's the best memories, going out. Obviously, tacos was the first thing. Going out for tacos and just a Mexican restaurant, but it's mostly tacos, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I guess my perspective on food, it really evolves around like family, I would say, like how we got together to eat in those moments.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, for me, I think it was when I started to commute by myself to go to school. And that also meant to me that I could make my own choices on what lunch am I going to eat today. So that was pretty cool and fun because I always loved to eat outside in the street. And I remember outside of a subway station that I always pass through, there was this taco stand that I was very much fan of it. And the memory I have about that is that there was this guy that was sort of like a one-man operation. And this guy was in charge of setting the whole thing up. And he was selling tacos de suadero and longaniza and tripa. And a couple of times I remember getting there earlier before he was even open. And I remember that, like, the way I wait standing, because he was not like a brick and mortar. It was just like a taco stand in the street. So I was just pretty much standing in the street looking at him, just he was like getting ready for the day. And then just one thing in particular, it's amazing that I remember is that while he was putting his lard on his choricera, his lard was in a plastic bag,
Mm.
and he didn't care. It was this sort of like awesomeness. I was so aware, like, amazed about it, that I didn't even care. But he basically just grabbed the whole plastic bag into the choricera, which was pretty hot, and let the plastic melt on itself for the lard to come out. And I was like, yeah, let's, like,
Yeah.
so looking at those things, I think that it really changed or catch my attention about food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love both of those stories. I love even like a bad food memory, I think, is something that people don't necessarily talk about, but it's such a reality that like sometimes when you're cooking, it just doesn't turn out, or like not everyone is like cooking out of passion, but it's something that they have to do.
Yeah.
And also like watching not only like the final product, but the way that someone sets up and makes something happen. I think those are both like really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I had to learn when I moved by myself, because like I say, my mom was never like my dad used to, I think he give her a bunch of cooking books when they got married. So yeah, I never learned. My grandma tried to teach me, but I was like, no. And yeah, I always kind of like struggle with that. I think at this point, obviously looking at Gio, how he, just can transform something very easily with the ingredients he has. I think that's when I really started kind of have a passion for food too.
And I started to try a lot of things that you didn't like before.
Yeah, I was a picky eater, to be honest.
What's something that you used to not like that now you do like?
So one thing that I think is crazy, because I get that from a bunch of our customers, like the cilantro thing,
The
like,
cilantro.
Oh, it tastes like
cilantro
soap
thing.
to you?
Yeah. No, I mean, it used to, I guess. I used to be like, no cilantro, no cilantro. Then I read about this whole thing, tastes like soap. And when I got here, when we met even, I was like, mine without cilantro. But then little by little, I don't know, just tasting it and trying it and
Started
all,
to make sense.
it literally just, I like it now, So I don't know if something that is, in your mind that tastes like soap thing,
Yeah.
or is really like genetic. But yeah,
Yeah,
that was the thing for me.
I used to not like spicy things at all, and I think I just had to keep eating them, and everyone else in my family would. And I grew up in Los Angeles, and we would go eat like tacos all the time together. And I felt so lame being like, "Give me mild," or like "No salsa for me." And like now as an adult, I really do like spicy things. So I think that it's possible that you can overcome something like exposure therapy.
Yeah, 100%.
Sure.
Bunch of things. I have more, but
We don't have to. Okay. How did you guys meet?
So I got here in 2015, and I was just coming out of school in Mexico, and I just wanted to be a photographer pretty much. And I spent here like the 6 months that my permit allowed me to, and then I went back to Mexico, and I wanted to come back, no, but I know, I mean, it's harder now, but it was hard also back then to just kind of go back and forth with a tourist visa. So I started to look into, how I can come with a work visa I actually found first the intern visa. I just needed like a sponsor, no? So I was looking photographers, photo studios, all sort of things. And someone told me about Gio, that he was Mexican and then he has this photo studio. And like, just reach out to him. He's Mexican. He might be able to help you. And I did. I sent him an email. I was in Mexico when all this happened. And we started going back and forth. Like, I don't worry about it because that's a whole thing, no? That most companies, I mean, some would make the paperwork for you, but I was like, I'll do everything. Just sign all this. I just want to, be in New York. Even if you don't pay me, I'll figure it out. I'll do something.
Which for me was great. I mean, it was like 40 hours a week and
intern.
without pay. It's good.
And yeah, this was in 2015, and then I guess 2016 actually, beginning of 2016, and we finally had a Skype call when that was also a thing. And yeah, I came officially with my intern visa. In October 2016, and that's when we met in person. We started working together in the photo studio that Gio was running back then.
Wow,
So, yeah.
I never knew this part of the story.
Yeah.
I feel giggly. So how did you go from working in the photo studio to deciding to open a restaurant together?
A bunch of things happened in between, but I think everything was some sort of like a slow cooking process. For one part, the photo studio was doing great and we had a lot of fun, but when COVID hit, it was terrible. But since back then, I enjoy cooking all the time, and we frequently make our own lunches. We just bought like a little electric griddle, and we cook our own tacos there. And that was our our favorite meal back then. Like, like a 30-minute meal, it became all of a sudden like a 2 hour just hanging out in the table, cooking and talking. So I enjoyed a lot doing that back in the day in the studio, and that I feel like that sort of nurtured me in a sense of always wanted to cook for someone or create some sort of experience while cooking, and like everything that goes in between and the before and after. And since we were like, okay, let's go to shop, so we were going to chop in all the ingredients that we would use the same day, and so I really loved that, and I think that was part of the beginning of this whole thing. And but when COVID hit and the studio was dying pretty much, we came into a point, me and Tanya, that we were really. I talked to Tanya. I was like, we need to figure something out because this is not going well, and so we consider a bunch of options. Probably not a lot, actually. A couple options. We also thought of like, why we would just back into full-on photography, because managing a studio is much more of like a behind-the-scenes sort of work. It's more a production work, not really photography. So we were like, maybe we're back into being photographers, but that was also during COVID, it wasn't also not near to be great. So we just, keep talking, and we remember. And I knew after that always kept saying, like, I wish, or I would like to open a taqueria. I would like to have my own restaurant. Because when we did that, a lot of people that came to me, they were like, yeah, man, like, you've been telling this all the time. And I was really, and then, I remember when I moved in New York, I also started to hang out with a lot of people in the restaurant industry, because that was sort of like the first people I met, and I loved that ambient, and I loved the late nights to hang out in a place when it's closed, and I that was kind of like my first comfortable scene in New York. It wasn't really photography. Photography was always sort of like what I came with from Mexico, doing that. But what it really started to grow on me when I moved here was definitely that connection with kitchens, food, people working in that industry. So it was just a matter of time that it was going to happen, I guess. And COVID was, I guess, just the perfect sort of spark that initiated all.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting here in New York. Obviously, there were a lot of restaurants that closed during the pandemic, but almost 5 years later, maybe it has been 5 years, there are so many places that got their start as a pop-up, or, maybe just even opening their brick and mortar, that now have had like growth because of that.
Totally.
How did you decide like what the menu would be at Taqueria Ramirez? There's hundreds of amazing tacos in the world that you could have chosen to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a process, because the food that I guess that you were cooking in those studio days, it was something much more simple, no? Like, just grab a steak and then cook it in the griddle.
Put some peppers
Put some peppers. So that was, I guess, something we started with, no?
That also, I feel like, everything I did before was more of like almost like it's ready to eat. Like, I didn't really got into this sort of like long process of cooking before. It was more like just throw a steak into the grill or the pan, and like it's ready in 5 minutes, But I guess was also during the pandemic that I started to get a little more, I guess, homesick, in a sense of like remembering what was the actual tacos that I used to love eating in Mexico. And this was obviously this older style of, food process that it involves long periods of like the suadero that it needs to be cooked in 4 hours, or the pastor that takes 15 hours to be, like ready, and since you start cutting the meat. So I never really got into that, and I was honestly a little bit like, am I really gonna get into it? That sort of like internal question of like, because I never did it before. But the time, like during the pandemic, just you have a lot of time, right? And you have so much things that you want to do during that time, and it's also there was this sort of feeling that this fuck it feeling that let's just do it, So YouTube was also a big influence, to be honest, because I was homesick, so I started to watch all these videos of street food in Mexico, and that connected me one morning, and I was with Tanya, and I was like, you know what, this is what we need to do. We need to bring these sort of tacos that are the ones that I actually grew up eating, and those are the ones that I really miss.
Yeah.
And so I just started like that. I started watching tons of videos, and like remembering watching that guy, prepping his street taco stand, and I was like, I think I can do it,
Yeah, I'm trying to picture like the first time that you bought a trompo to do al pastor and like layered all of the meat onto that. Like to me, that's like, obviously you wouldn't just do that in the photo studio for 4 people, because that's like making food at scale. It takes so long. How did you feel when you were figuring that out? Were you nervous?
That was crazy because
Yeah.
we were so we were almost ready to open. So this is after 6 months that we renovated the space
Yeah.
that the Taqueria is, and even at that point, I was never even touched pastor before. All since that point, it was all about
Suadero.
suadero and the
Yeah, we have been
choricera.
doing all those since we got the list of the space till we opened. We were doing tastings with the choricera. No, we bought one literally from Amazon, like a small, and we were just inviting friends over, trying different cuts of meat to see what worked best. Everybody was like, "This is great," but then yeah, like you,
But the
like,
pastor was the
it
piece
was
of
a
the
last
cake.
minute decision.
Yeah. And I was like, you know what? We need to have the pastor. So
I was like, "Are you sure?"
the very much first soft opening that we had there, I was like, I'm gonna do the pastor. And I did it. There's photos of it. We didn't even have the proper tools, so I had to actually hold the
The stick.
this sort of like blade that you put all the meat into. I need to hold it all the time, and with the other hand, just start to stacking the meat one by one, and it was
I
very
have a great photo of that
very
moment.
cute, very very naive, but also awesome in the whole sense of having the just that first experience moment. It's priceless.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes you post videos on the Taqueria Ramirez Instagram. It's like a sped up of the like al pastor spit being layered with everything on
Yeah.
it. It's very calming to watch, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I feel like the people that do it, they're so focused on it, and they
Meditation.
literally like try to perfect it every time. Like, okay, no, this is going more towards the right. So it's just kind of like it takes around 2 hours, but it's just so fun to watch.
I remember
the
when I
end.
was learning how to do it with later on who became one of our first taqueros there also. His name is Bernardino, and I told him like you need to think about yourself as like if you are a sculpture, and this
Sculptor
is
artist.
and this is your piece, and so you need to step back and like look at it and change size and like see how it feels and like go back inside and work on it, and he really knew. I mean, he connected with what I was telling because he mastered it very much. Like he was great.
Yeah, and I think tacos are such an art form, and even the fact of it being a sculpture, like there are people who specialize in certain mediums of art, and I think there are probably taqueros who like they make al pastor, and that's what they do. That is the whole art form.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Something that I really like about the Taqueria Ramirez location is how you like built ways into it that people have to eat your tacos in the way that you want them to. Like the fact that you don't offer paper plates, it's the reusable plates so that people can't walk away and eat their taco later because tacos don't hold up very well. And then I even saw that you had to build like slots into the trash can so that people can't throw out the plates.
Yeah.
How did like you decide to build that into the taqueria, and what kind of response have you gotten?
So we definitely wanted people to experience the best way to eat the food. No, that's how it's in Mexico. It's not like you stand around. Maybe you don't have a seat, but you can just stand and eat the taco. It just finish in 5 minutes.
Yeah, it doesn't
literally,
take very long.
And we wanted people to understand that. Like, no, it's not like you're gonna get home, sit down, turn on the TV, and then eat your taco. No, it's just like quick. It is how it's supposed to be, no? So it took a while, obviously, us communicating that verbally in the moment, no? Like,
People was like think
to
we
go.
were joking.
Like, no,
Like
there's
how?
not to go.
Why is not to go? And like no, I mean the food is just not gonna be good. And I think it also helped a lot to centralize the vibe in the space. Like it was not like this like come and go or like this personalization of my body in this room with all these people, and it helped a lot to start creating that culture that I think we were part of in that space.
Yeah, I think it also just means that you're not on your phone like watching something, eating the taco. Like I think if you're eating a good taco, you physically can't do that. Like you focus on what you're doing.
Yeah.
Then there's very quick turnover. So you have a lot of people that can go into this space, even if there's a long line.
Yeah.
No, people aren't hanging out for that long. They're eating and then
Totally.
maybe they chat, but they're probably just getting and going.
Yeah, we definitely have improved all that system with time. Now I'm so impressed. Like Saturdays, I'm there. It's the busiest day of the week. And people are literally, you can come in, order your taco. They see it, and when they finish ordering the taco, someone is already standing up. So there's always kind of like a rotation of people, and it's just so quick. I think it just takes a little longer to wait online.
Yeah.
But once you're there, it's just quick, and people know, like, okay, I finished. I think I need to give room to someone else,
Yeah. It's interesting also. I feel like Greenpoint, that part of Greenpoint has almost like become a taco neighborhood or a Mexican food neighborhood because like Submarino is up the block also and Ese Taco further down. It's kind of like you could do a taco crawl and go to a bunch of places in one day.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually
I've
love
seen
that.
that.
We wanted people to start calling Greenpoint Little Mexico.
Yeah. Hold on.
Because it started Little Japan, I think. I don't know if you've heard of that, of Greenpoint.
Oh, really?
Because a bunch of places started to open. But I think it's kind of like leveled out
It's
right
both,
now.
yeah. You could call it like Green Punto or something like that. So how did you decide to open a second restaurant, and how did you kind of focus on Carnitas Ramirez as what the focus would be?
Mm-hmm. So
It took a while
yeah,
to come up with that.
I guess when we opened, we were just working so much, no? And then after the first year, we started considering expanding. A bunch of people started approaching, like, I have this space, I have this money. So we definitely started hearing options, offers, everything. But then also we kind of stepped back. We're like, okay, we finally have the system rolling. Let's enjoy this for a little bit longer, just
Before getting into another.
more. And yeah, we then started looking again. That was last year.
Took a while also to find a spot. I remember we literally probably been looking for spots for over a year until we find that spot in the East Village. And we were back then still with the mindset of just opening a 2.0 version of Greenpoint. But during the period, something switched. I mean, like, we also start to contemplating the idea of what if we have partners in this one, and we sort of like easy off the process and share responsibilities with someone else too. And that's where Yvonne and Kari came into play. And when we talked to them, it just felt pretty fresh, I guess, again to me, like to start talking about it. And at some point we were so like rethinking overall the project that we came to this other thing of like, what if we do something different? Like, what if we focus on something that, like that we think that the city is still missing. And the carnitas came into, and I think it was Ivan who said it for the first time, in a sense of like, yeah, Carnitas Ramirez way. Fuck, And I was like, yes, Carnitas
Actually,
Ramirez.
yes, that sounds great.
Let's do it. So yeah, I mean, I feel like we wanted to have a new experience with them. It would be so much different if we were just sort of like replicate what we know and what we do on a different location. It will be great as a business and all that, but it will not have the same impact for us in our process of this sort of like rediscovering our lives in this food world, and especially with two partners that I felt it also helped to them a lot to just like get into something new and fresh rather than something that was already there and established.
Yeah, I feel like you don't really strike me as people that want to just do the same thing all over again.
Yeah.
At least not yet. Maybe you'll do like a Miami location later or something.
Maybe. Yeah.
So when you were kind of focusing on doing all these different cuts of carnitas, were there any that you were especially excited about putting on the menu, maybe because they're harder to find here in New York?
Yeah, I think for me, I discovered a bunch of things too by opening carnitas. Obviously, in different areas of Mexico, it's focused on different things. No, so I'm from the north. It's not a big thing, carnitas. It will be kind of like here that you hear carnitas and you get pork butt, or just a one choice, let's say.
The meatiest part.
Uh-huh. And discovering, for me, hearing nana, that is uterus, I was like, wait, what? So for me, the whole thing was exciting, to be honest. It was just I remember you wanted to focus on bringing quesadillas, no? The brains.
Mm.
And the whole head in general for me was very what I was really drive to like get my hands into it.
Mm-hmm.
When we got our first full head, I was like, oh, and knowing that so many different parts and textures and flavors are there, it's like the richest part of the animal in that sense of like, all these differences that are just so close to each other, but they're just so different.
So different.
Yeah, as now than an ear or the jowl or the cheek, they just taste so different. So definitely that for me was the whole head was my favorite part in that process.
When we introduced gorditas to her, I was like, oh yes, because that's one of the things that I would in Mexico just have as a breakfast, a lot of the times, all weekends, gorditas de chicharrón.
Yeah, I love a gordita, and it's interesting that you guys have like only tacos basically at Taqueria Ramirez, but at Carnitas Ramirez, I guess maybe because it doesn't have taco in the name, like you're able to do gorditas and tortas and things like that.
Yeah.
Was that fun for you to get to expand the like canvas you were putting the meat on?
Yeah, it's very, very exciting for me.
I guess the only like guy that we had is like it just has to have pork in it.
Yeah.
The pork is like the centerpiece of this restaurant. So as long as we keep that, we can, still have fun and try different things. And yeah, I was very happy when we were like gorditas. Yes, absolutely. And tortas, they're much more from the north. They're a different name.
Yeah, we call it lonche over there. And it's a thing, no, that lonche de carnitas, that's also I grew with so much. So I remember when we were talking about the menu, I was like, let's do lonches, let's do the tortas. But then when we started, it was just like, no, we don't have enough room to store these. We don't have the griddle, but it's just, I don't know, it's big though. But we're like, we're not going to have room to warm bread, etc. No? So that's when, at some point, we realized that weekdays we could do that. So that's why we only offer it for lunch, like as a lunch special, just come try the torta.
Oh, this makes sense because you were talking about tortas earlier and I didn't see them when I was there. And I was like, how did I miss this? But I guess it's only on the weekdays.
Yeah.
Only on the weekdays.
Where are you sourcing the bread from?
It's Mi Barrio. So it's just a big Mexican distributor.
Yeah.
And they source it from a bakery. It's local as well.
Nice.
But yeah, it's Mexico. It's called telera. So actually, in where I'm from, is very different. The bread is very specific from the region. But this one is, we tried different ones, and this was definitely the best that we find.
Yeah.
So yeah, shout out to Mi Barrio.
Yeah.
How does it work for you guys with the two restaurants, knowing that you have partners at Carnitas, but still trying to run both of them? Do you split your time equally across the two, or like how does it kind of look for you these days?
Yeah, actually we just had the full experience because our Yvonne and Carrie were out of town for 10 days. So yeah, we kind of had to split literally half and half. It was a lot of work.
Your two kids, yeah.
But thankfully, with them, we have much less work, to be honest. So it's we are. I mean, weekends I'm in Taqueria, couple days, Friday and Saturday, and then in East Village I'm on Sunday. You are Saturday in Carnitas, Friday in Taqueria.
So basically, we're
Yeah,
still
half and
much
half, yeah.
more time in Greenpoint,
Mm-hmm.
and that comes only because we also have Ivan and Kari that is definitely taking care of carnitas together, and so that I will say we're probably 25% time wise involved in carnitas, probably 70% maybe in Greenpoint.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that makes sense.
Like on the line, no?
Yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, I love being.
it's an easy back and forth though. Like,
yeah, super easy.
it's crossing the bridge is it's quite nice too.
Yeah,
That
you-
was one
you
of the
planned it.
things. Yeah, we wanted to. When we were looking in Manhattan, we are like, okay, well, let's make our lives easier because you don't want to be going to.
We always try to look into that like
Mhm.
okay, well, but let's make it easy.
Yeah.
Easy for us, not
And of things where we can, yeah,
Yeah.
Totally.
for sure.
I was doing some research before having you on, and I read that you have this like saint trilogy of tacos, which is suadero, carnitas, and barbacoa.
Yeah,
Are you going to open a barbacoa spot eventually?
that's a dream.
That's
Yes.
the dream.
I think about it every weekend. That's my. I mean, it's one of those things that like I still miss so much, and every time that I go back to Mexico, I can't be there without doing that, and yeah, that's always been part of the dream, the trilogy.
Yeah.
And then after that,
But maybe
just
it's-
chill.
well, we'll see.
I
We'll
feel like
see.
barbacoa seems like maybe like one of the most difficult ones to do just from a space capacity, right?
Yeah, and also involves a lot of different like technical aspects that we'll have to figure out in New
Mhm.
York, in a sense of because you need to cook it on an open air,
Yeah.
and
On the ground.
and it's also supposed to be in the ground, which could be also not necessarily in ground, but you can also make some sort of like a high
Oven. No?
level up and then still go down, but not necessarily in
You've
ground.
been in the YouTube on this.
Yeah, yes, a lot.
But yeah, it's beautiful. It's a some sort of like a night shift cooking, because it cooks overnight, and I'm not. I used to be a night person. Like work at night was my thing, but I'm not anymore. But maybe that's some sort of connection still there. So I like that, some sort of like calmness at night, and like focusing doing something, and while everybody's asleep,
Yeah.
and to have that some sort of like surprise, and during the morning it's magical.
ready.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm picturing like I don't know, maybe it's like upstate or at the Rockaways in the summer. It's like you have your part-time
Yeah,
barbacoa relaxation venture.
I love that.
And
I want
weekends
it.
only.
You just planted the seed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. You have too much to do, but I love barbacoa. I feel like I don't eat it that often
I
here.
know. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's just a few people too.
Yeah.
It's a lot to explore, I feel like, in New York still with
Yeah.
Mexican food.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. I feel like I'm from LA and people always ask me about the New York City Mexican food scene. So you two obviously being Mexican, I feel like there must be a lot of discourse about that. Do you feel like the Mexican food in New York has evolved like over the amount of time that you've lived here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially, I mean, obviously it's not like since when we opened, but since pandemic, I
Yeah.
feel like there definitely was a shift in the Mexican food appreciation and focus on the traditional instead of trying to cater to, the market,
Yeah.
American market. I feel like, maybe it helped that people were going back and forth more easily in Mexico, just living there during the pandemic and just bringing back those experiences and being like, oh yeah, finally there's something like that in New York.
Yeah, all of the New Yorkers that are obsessed with going to Mexico
Yeah.
City. That must be really weird to see as somebody who's from Mexico City.
Yeah, it is weird. It's weird. Sometimes I'm jealous also.
Yeah, because you have your restaurants here.
Yeah, and because I'm not up to date anymore of you know, the new things going on there, what's happened, where are the places to go, etc. So when someone, you know, talk to me about that, I'm like, it's a weird feeling. But we were recently, Tanya and I, we were recently in Mexico, and we were talking about this sort of gentrification phenomena happening there, and I was thinking like, what's gonna be the future of this? I was trying to imagine this in like 20 years, if people who is moving there, that means they're gonna have to maybe find a local job, or like they're gonna start having family there. So it's obviously going to be people that are going to be more rooted into the culture, but also that also will mean that there will be more diversity or more cultural, like, you know, spectrums to be around with. And I like that. I feel like that's part of the reason why I love New York, you know. And then seeing that in Mexico, gentrification can go, you know, it could be black and white. But I see that bright side in that sense of like, yeah, what would it happen if all these people just decide to just literally just like live here the rest of their lives and start having families here and so on. And I think that'll be great.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see like people who are New Yorkers who have moved to Mexico City that are now opening restaurants who like are not Mexican. Like,
Yeah.
I think if people are going to Mexico City who are from like New York or anywhere and they're not Mexican and they really love Mexican culture and they want to experience it and like put their money towards it, I think that's great. I think it's when people go to places that are like not rooted in the community, that are not from there, and then they're just kind of like creating a version. There's all these like natural wine bars and things that I feel like you look around the room, you could be in LA, you could be in New York, you could be in London, you could be anywhere. And what's the point of doing that in Mexico City if you're going to Mexico City?
Sure.
Yeah, totally.
I feel like I want to talk to more of my friends in Mexico. How do they feel in a sense, you know, of also, do that make you, you know, acknowledge, or like, how does it make you feel as a Mexican, or like, did it makes you feel back to your own roots, or like that I don't know, but I need to. I'm definitely interested in talking with them about that.
And I also feel like the city is so big. I mean, we obviously talk about this phenomena, but
yeah,
most of it is.
But we're talking about probably that's not even the 10% of the city.
Exactly.
It's like Condesa, Roma, maybe Polanco. Yeah.
Or San
I don't
Rafael.
know.
But that's it. But that's literally 5% of the city. Yeah.
Yes.
When I go to Mexico City, I like going to like Centro or like other neighborhoods or places that just feel like you know exactly where you are.
Yeah.
And it's not like it could be somewhere else.
Exactly, yeah. And there's a charm, I guess, in Roma Condesa about that, no? It's also like you know exactly where you are.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel that there's still plenty of room for different things, no? In there, for sure.
And plenty of room for good tacos here in New York also.
Yes, exactly.
I want to play a little like lightning round with you guys to close. So I'm going to make you play some favorites probably.
Okay.
Okay.
Do it.
Wow.
Your favorite ice cream flavor?
Mine is cherry chocolate, actually mine.
A Greenpoint spot that you think deserves more hype?
Do you know the name of that?
Yeah, we were thinking about this place actually. Omakase is a Peruvian guy doing this awesome omakase experience. I feel like, I don't know if he wants it to be a little hidden because it is the place, but it's great. It's a great experience.
It looks like an apartment, basically. You enter into a ground level apartment.
Oh, I love
but
that.
it's a whole
Yeah.
restaurant. And
BYOB.
it's BYOB.
Love that too.
Nah, that's a lot of fun. It's a good place. It's called U Omakase.
You omakase.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
A favorite spot for Mexican food in New York that's not your own?
That's a hard one.
You could say a couple.
Dan and I, we have a lot of history there, but we love this place in Chelsea Market from the Los Tacos Número Uno, but it's called Mariscos.
Yeah.
Just Los Mariscos. Yeah, we
We
used
love that place. We
to.
always sit at by the bar. If we don't sit by the bar, we wait until we're like in the bar.
Yeah,
That's
but
fun.
yeah, I guess when we were in the studio, yeah, it's just like, let's go grab the L and go all the way to Chelsea Market just to get mariscos. Obviously, this was before Submarino.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but it hits, when we
It
go.
still hits. And I have so much good memories there, and they have this amazing cubetazos, this beer.
Beer buckets.
That sounds so good. I love mariscos, and I think I went to Submarino because I saw you guys mention it in an interview or something, but I think that's a style of Mexican food that is really common in LA, so I grew up eating it a
Right.
lot, and it's much harder to find here in New York.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited because I saw that they're opening a new location, and it's in like Clinton Hill, which is my neighborhood. So
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I actually like screamed at the top of my lungs. It's, when you walk around your neighborhood and you're like fantasize about what would open in that
Totally.
place. Like I think I literally said that. So
Oh, that's awesome.
I felt like it was obviously not for me, but I personally am really going to benefit from this. Okay. Your go-to taco order.
Pastor Suadero. Forever.
Pastor y campechano.
And in carnitas, it would be barriga and costilla. That's mine.
Yeah. Taco de huevo con salchicha.
That's just the home one.
My breakfast taco.
That's your off-menu order at the restaurant.
Yeah.
Your like go-to bodega snack.
Doritos.
Yeah, we don't do it very often, but we will do
What
it.
flavor?
They just the classic. The
The nacho, what is it? The red
Like
one.
the red one.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I wish they were as spicy as they are in Mexico, but yeah, they're the best.
Yeah. Do you ever like add the hot sauce in the bag?
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
Valentina, for sure.
Always. Okay, finally, a fictional food scene, like from a movie or a book that you wish you could eat in real life.
I was actually thinking of this one. I don't know the name of the movie in English, but it's La Dama y el Vagabundo. The dogs that when they eat spaghetti and they
Lady
kiss.
and the Tramp.
Lady and the Tramp.
Wait, say it in Spanish a little more slowly.
Dama y el Vagabundo.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Lady and the Vagabond. Lady
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
Tramp. Yeah.
That spaghetti, I always like, oh, that looks good.
This is what comes to my mind right now. There's a scene in this Mortal Kombat movie from the 90s, I think, the very original one, that when they, all the fighters arrive to the tournament and they have one night to, like get to know each other. And the next day is, the fight starts. And they have this amazing dinner. But this is this huge table full of like
a banquet.
Yeah, lobsters.
Yeah.
And, meat and like olives and like grapes. It looks really good. And I remember Kano, the guy has like the asshole, like he's eating, and the way he's eating that scene is pretty good. I was like, yeah. I wish I was that guy right now.
This is definitely the first time that Mortal Kombat has been mentioned on the podcast, but I hope it's not the last. Thank you both so much for coming on the show. This was so fun.
Thank you so much.
This is Taste is hosted and produced by Matt Rodbard and me, Eliza Barbanel. The show is edited by lead producer Clayton Gumbert and supervised by Pat Stango, Director of Media Production and Development at Penguin Random House. Thanks to Shalia Harris and the production team at Penguin Random House. Theme music by Steve Rydell, logo and guest illustrations by Ellie Skurzat. Visit Taste online at tastecooking.com and make sure to subscribe to our newsletter to keep updated on all cool things in the world of taste.